Nothing can really prepare one for what's on offer at the Taj Mahal and the Red Fort in Agra. They were absolutely mind-blowing. We got there on a 2-hour train ride, very comfortable train from Delhi, as you can see, well guarded by fully armed security folk, subsequent to the dreadful massacres at the Taj Hotel in Mumbai. And really the whole country of India is on high alert for similar events, but we were able to put that to one side and enjoy the ride and even enjoy the wildlife on one of the intermediate stations. But our thoughts were on the first port of call, which is the Taj Mahal. After a welcome wash and brush up in Agra, we joined the large number of people making their way down the avenue towards the Taj Mahal entrance. The resourceful Indian entrepreneurs were employing camels to draw their various two-wheeled and four-wheeled conveyances. I suspect they hadn't yet found a use for the monkeys, but the monkeys kept themselves busy entertaining the public, such as us who preferred to walk. After a stiff walk and having passed through very rigid security checks, we were able to pass through the eastern gate and enter the periphery of the Taj Mahal complex. This building is a secondary gate inside the East Gate and is referred to as the main entrance gate. It's a magnificent affair. It's similar in size to the front of Wells Cathedral. It's a huge construction, ornately decorated and beautifully preserved and maintained. This plaque tells us that the Taj Mahal was constructed on the orders of Emperor Shah Jahan as a mausoleum for his favourite wife, the Empress Mumtaz Mahal, whom he married in 1612 and who died in 1631, giving birth to his 14th child. The Taj Mahal took 17 years to construct, and he himself was buried there in 1666 when he too died. Once through the second main gate, the gate there in the background, turning round, you're confronted with a view which I must say is the most beautiful view that I've ever seen of an architectural nature. Absolutely mind-blowing to see that pearly white marble edifice ahead of one. Perhaps these longer vistas leading up to the Taj are more familiar to us, but even so, they too are breathtaking. The building behind the trees there, slightly obscured, is a mosque. And then we have the rather hackneyed photographs which, if one didn't have them taken, one would regret. But each one of us in the group posed for a series of photographs taken by the guide, and to his credit, he did a splendid job. And then we posed as a group to have a memorable photograph taken. A rather imperfect reflection of the Taj Mahal in one of the ponds at the front of the building, and then a bench which perhaps one would recognise as Diana's bench, the one that Princess Diana sat on as she posed for the photographers on her solo visit to India. Another shot of the mausoleum that I mentioned earlier, and then back to this wondrous creation which I can only marvel at, together with millions of others, I guess. This building, the Mehman Khana, is to the right of the Taj Mahal, viewed from the front across a courtyard, as one can see in that photograph there. A rather closer view now of the front of the building, and some details of the intricacy of the carving in the white marble which forms the entire building, and the expectant queue waiting to enter. The disappointment on entering was that photography in the main chamber, where the mausoleum proper is forbidden, and I just had this one brief picture of some of the intricate work in the facade of the burial chamber, and then the corridors leading outwards were themselves highly decorated with the same intricate forms. It defies belief, and no wonder the place took 17 years to build. The more one sees, the more work one sees, and the more one wonders at the skill of those builders 500 years ago. The Taj is built hard against the Yamuna River, which we can see now at the rear of the building as we come out into the bright sunshine. Some theorists suggest that the variable levels of the river, and possibly the decline in the overall level, may represent a threat to the stability of the building, but only time will tell. The building is built on deep wooden piles which may suffer from those variable levels. Meanwhile, we will continue to enjoy the sheer brilliance of the architectural decoration, even at the rear of the building. The quality is superb. To the west of the Taj, and some 60 meters from it, is the mosque named Miman Khana, another brilliantly executed red sandstone building topped by 3 marbled. We are now looking at decoration on the north face of the Taj Mahal. The detailing is just as superb. Some of the marble inlay is actually script, Indian script, in 2 languages. Small evidence of damage there, and some idea of the structure of the building. Back to the front of the building now, and the splendid vista presented by the avenue back to the main gateway. And then we shall make our way ultimately down the left hand side of that avenue and look back at the Taj from there. We shall first of all look back at the mosque and the human element with a visitor there in national costume. And a little egret there on the lawns in front of the Taj, sharing its reflection with the reflection of the building itself, which is a very nice juxtaposition. One wonders at the thoughts of these gentlemen as they gaze at this creation. And so we make our way back towards the outer eastern gate, back along the avenue, still bustling with people. I'm getting slightly ahead of myself because on the way to the Red Fort we made a detour to a little enterprise involved in the carving and creation of marble inlay work. This too was truly spectacular and mirrored much of the quality of the handiwork in the Taj Mahal itself. It was claimed that these people were the descendants of the original carvers. Who's to say? But their work, that's a tabletop, black marble inlaid tabletop. And there is a large selection of the smaller items which they'd created. An interesting contrast now, day-to-day life on the bank of the very same river. We stopped because we were interested in the railway structures over the river, the bridges, but the little microcosm of life here with water buffalo luxuriating in a stagnant pool of water, served as a reminder, if one needed a reminder, of the huge contrasts of life in India, even amongst the urban people, which of course these people were. It would seem that nothing is wasted by these people, and here we have an Indian lady gathering the dung from the cattle, patting it into a form, laying it out along a convenient concrete pipe to dry in the sun, and that will be then used as fuel in their houses. So absolutely nothing is wasted. The bridge was busy with rail traffic. We can see it there in the distance as we move towards the Red Fort, and there we have the Taj Mahal in all its magnificence. The overriding difference between the Taj Mahal and the building which we are now about to visit is that whereas the Taj Mahal is a mausoleum, the Red Fort was the home of kings and princes over centuries, possibly over 2,000 years. This is the main gatehouse through which we entered, the Amar Singh Gate. The fort is not a single building, it's a series of buildings in a large walled complex, and some of the buildings would have been the private residences of the royalty and the court, and others would have been open to the public for this magnificent mosque apparently had not been in use for a number of years because of problems of security and access at the appropriate times of prayer. I mentioned public access to the royalty at appropriate times, and here we have the Hall of Public Audience, which served as a place of justice and a place of conference at the appropriate time and on appropriate subjects. But the architectural brilliance of the building you'll see from the following images. A little contrast, shades of Stop Me and Buy One. There would of course have been no public access to the throne chamber and the other court apartments. In fact, even some of the staff employed by the king were mute, so that they were not in a position to broadcast that which may have taken place within their deaf earshot. Recognition here for one of those in the 19th century who was responsible for the continued preservation of the site. Another distant view of the Taj Mahal from one of the royal vantage points. A vantage point, of course, taken by the builder of the Taj. The position of the king's personal mosque, which we are about to pass by, was critical to his ability to be able to see across to his creation in the distance as he was involved in his private prayer. These buildings, known as the Golden Pavilions, apparently housed the king's harem. '21st century monogamy instanced by this happy honeymoon couple. There's no escaping the vista of the Taj Mahal and the river frontage. Looking inside again, this complex was actually the living accommodation for the king's harem. Every square inch of the place seemed to exude architectural merit in its decoration and form, be it the walls, the ceilings, the pillars, the floors, the general layout, the vistas achieved in the conjunction between the various buildings. It's beyond belief, really, that it was produced at a time when in this country we were modest in that direction, to say the least. I love the costumes in this particular shot. Quite by accident, but nevertheless the costumes enhanced. It looks almost theatrical. It's very difficult for me to comment further on the relevance of the various buildings, even in hindsight and with a guide alongside me. It's difficult to know what to add, so I think I will allow the buildings to speak for themselves. As we prepared to leave the complex, a group of young hopefuls arrived to replicate our experiences, and hopefully it's one that they will remember. Interestingly, hanging from the roof of one of the outer buildings was a little cluster of bats amidst all the early medieval decoration. And we're now approaching the outer walls and the gateways through which we entered this amazing red fort. Our guide throughout the tour of the two locations, the Taj and the Red Fort, owned this Indian Royal Enfield motorcycle, which of course is a British designed motorcycle from the 1950s, which is now in full production in India, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. It looks British, doesn't it? It was late evening by the time we arrived back at New Delhi station, and we were able to see the static locomotive exhibit outside the station, floodlit, as was Delhi's triumphal arch. And these photographs are a few pictures taken both during the daytime and in the evening of our hotel in Delhi, which, like the other ones that we used during our trip, was a beautiful place and suited us in every respect. Thanks again to the Railway Touring Company. This old Buick motorcar and the Ferrari, which you'll see in a moment or two, were owned, I understand, by the hotel's owner. Unfortunately, the Ferrari was covered on this occasion. And these are some rather dark shots of the foyer of the hotel and the artwork on the walls. Three-dimensional artwork now in the form of sculptures, and lastly, and perhaps most tastefully, some culinary artwork in the shape of cakes on display for sale. in the hotel foyer. Wonderful. What an end to a smashing day.